Hi, everyone. We just announced our Series A led by Khosla Ventures in Berkeley SkyDesk Accelerator Program also participated. Very excited to talk to Chon today from SkyDeck. Chon, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Lucas, thanks for inviting me and congratulations. Very exciting times.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much. You're a founding partner at Berkeley SkyDeck. I know a lot of people in the Bay Area probably know SkyDeck, but for those who don't, would you mind running us, through SkyDeck's elevator pitch?
Sure. The brief version of what we do at Skydeck is we are the official startup for the UC Berkeley ecosystem, which is a pretty common concept. But in addition to bringing out great talent and deal flow from campus, the more exciting part of what we do is we bring the world's best founders to Berkeley. We think there are amazing engineers, technologists in all corners of the world, and unfortunately can be extremely challenging to tap into the amazing institutional venture pipeline that we have in the Valley. So we are focused on doing exactly that. 6 months in Berkeley, 40 companies per year, 200K per company, and lots of resources and advisors and investors through that whole process.
Awesome. That's very exciting. So definitely something to look out for if anyone is at that stage and looking to connect with the Berkeley ecosystem. Before we get started, I want to thank you for your help during the fundraising process. You made a bunch of intros, including the one from, for Khosla actually. So you introduced us to John at Khosla Ventures, who ended up leading our Series A. So thank you so much for that introduction.
Well, I don't think we've earned a lot of the credit there. All the credit goes to you and the team. I mean, I think folks don't quite appreciate how much competitive pressure there is on the investor side. The VCs in the Valley spend all of their time trying to meet amazing founders and companies like you. The only reason that it feels challenging for folks on both sides is that there's a lot of noise out there. Investors take a lot of meetings with folks that are not a very good fit, and that's why trusted partners like we and the role that we play in the ecosystem is appreciated, I think, by all sides. When we send a company to John, he's not always going to invest. I will tell you that right now, but he is certainly going to take the time to dig in, and it's a funny story, right? Because I remember you were concerned about the timing of that whole round. You were concerned that it was so close to Thanksgiving and the holidays and all of the sort of when you think about how to maximize your funding round, you're always told that timing is important and all of that. But we went ahead and every investor wanted to meet you, right? Every fund that we put you in front of, they wanted to hear more. So that says a lot about the excitement for what you're currently building.
Yeah, timing was definitely a concern. So close to the holidays, I'm super glad we ended up getting a term sheet so quickly and closing this round and kind of finding that the right lead for us before everybody wanted to head out for the holidays. But I was surprised how quick the process actually was and how quickly people were able to meet. I remember some folks who actually had reInvent and taking the meeting from there. So yeah, you're definitely right in the sense of like if VCs are interested in the deal, they can act quick and they jump on the opportunity right away.
Yeah. I've never, it's the tier one VCs out there. What if we email them on a Sunday? It's at least a 50-50 that they're going to email me back that Sunday. So they are very involved in their businesses. They're very involved in their inbox, and they don't let a single good company escape. So
awesome. When we met, back all the way in 2018, a long time ago, SkyDeck had just closed its first fund. I think that was all like very very pretty fresh back then. And if I'm not mistaken, we were actually the first founders from Germany joining the program. When you meet founders like us that you've never heard of, right, that don't have like a serial founder track record or anything like that, what's the most important thing for you to consider before investing into them?
It really goes both ways, because at that point we didn't have a much of a track record either. You didn't really know what we would bring to the table, and so we both sort of went off on faith a little bit. But what I would say is that when we evaluate a company like yours, and this is a question that we get a lot from the VCs that we work with as well. It's like, hey, these folks they're new to you. They're not coming in from a trusted friend. How are you? How do you feel qualified to take that risk? And the truth is, of course, we understand that we are taking on risk, but there are certain types of risks that we're comfortable with, and there are certain types of risks that we're not comfortable with. We're comfortable with that commercial risk. We're comfortable that you don't know who exactly your customers are. I mean, that's why you're here. Like at the time, I think you guys hadn't really. I know you guys had a couple of trips to the U.S., but you guys hadn't really gone to market in the U.S. It would be ridiculous to assess you on the basis of, do you know who your customer is and how you're going to sell to them, even if there wasn't a pivot, even if you kept doing the same thing that you were doing. It would be unfair and I think pointless to assess you on that basis. But the risk that's a risk that we are okay with taking. The risk that we don't want to take is, who is the team, right? Like, who are these people? How much do they understand the problem set that they want to solve? How can we be confident that these people are going to work hard and that they're going to execute quickly and that they're coachable, that they're really going to, even though, we're very proud of the fact that we're a 6-month-long program. I really don't quite grasp how far you can get in 3 months, in which the last month is on fundraising and the first month is just on trying to find where the bathrooms are, right? It only gives you like 4 to 5 weeks to really build your business. But we want to, but still 6 months, that gives us 3-4 months to build your business, but it's still a finite window, very small window. So we really want the founders that we think can maximize that window with the help of what we bring to the table to build a thriving company that investors will then want to invest in. With you guys, it was clear your deep competence, your deep. I don't want to say the word affection, because that sounds odd when we're talking about cloud native applications. I'm not sure you had affection for it, but certainly your passion for it, right? You had a lot of passion for where that segment was going. You had a lot of opinions about it, and you had a lot of insight about it. So combined with what you had already built at that point, even though it was basic, even though I think it might have been command line only, if I'm not wrong, but still, like, it was clear that a lot of good engineering had gone into it, and that's exactly the sort of founder profile that we want to see.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, we were command line early back then, command line only. It was only dev space, developer tool. And we just knew engineers, the first thing they care about is the CLI anyway. So that's the most important thing to optimize. Awesome. Yeah, obviously, as you know, we ended up not raising right after SkyDeck, which, I apologize for that. That must have been a little disappointment on our end, right? Obviously, you always want all of your companies to do incredibly well right away. But, I don't know if you remember, but we were the only startup at Demo Day in our, current batch, where we actually ended up, telling VCs, hey, we're actually not raising today. But we're happy to chat and build a relationship. And you were actually the one that gave me the advice to say that on stage. And it felt like it felt a little risky to do that. It felt a little, unusual to do this. But for us, that was actually great advice. It was the right decision because it helped us to, not get distracted by fundraising too much. It helped us stay lean, keep going, and really try to see that we can get to product market fit without taking on that additional responsibility that also, interacting and bringing on a venture capitalist obviously brings with it as well. Do you see a lot of founders, not get demotivated and just keep going after SkyDeck, even if they are not quite ready to fundraise yet?
It's funny that you pose that as even sort of a controversial question, because I mean, I think you're right. I think back in 2018 or maybe it was 2019. I think it was sort of a controversial um, choice at the time, and I'm sure if you were feeling a little bit confused about it, I'm sure I was a little bit as well. But fast forward 5 years to where we are now, if if a founder approached me with that sort of question, like should we do this, we feel like we're not quite prepared to fundraise yet, we have runway, should we just postpone the raise and just announce that we're postponing the raise by 3 months or 6 months, I would not bat an eyelash. I would be enthusiastically saying yes. I think that's a great way to go. And to a large degree, that might have been informed by what you saw, but you're not alone. There's other companies that have done that. And I think have done that very effectively. For me, the biggest risk of raising early when you're not ready, I mean, beyond the fact that you might waste 2 or 3 months of your time and not getting where it's because the story's not quite there yet. You don't have that proof yet. One of the real downsides is that traction makes it really difficult to pivot, right? Like once you have paying users, once you start to track your North Star, like whatever your North Star is, I mean that's why we define one, because we want the whole team aligned on this is what we want to execute. Is it, downloads? Is it engagement after 4 weeks? Is it conversion rate from phase A to phase B? Whatever it is, you set that for your team. You hire people to help you improve on that specific metric. You build your product around that specific metric, and next thing you know, 12 months have gone by, and it turned out you weren't building the right business. And I think to me that's the real threat. Going back to Loft, like you're seeing after your pivot, you see what PMF feels like. You see what it's like when customers want your product. I also see companies that raised millions that seem to get to revenue, but then flatline like $1 million or $2 million in ARR because it turned out that what they're building is not the right thing. But boy, is it difficult to pivot when you have 1 or 2 million in ARR and you have a team of 10 to 15 focused on that 1 to 2 million ARR. Like, how do you start from scratch? So I have absolutely no problems with founders who take the time to say I don't. Now I do see founders that are also pitching that. They're saying like, look, don't invest in me because you're doing it because you're so excited about the current go to market, because I don't know this is the right one. And a lot of VCs are actually comfortable with that kind of a story, as long as you're candid about what you know and what you don't know. But I certainly don't have a problem at all with founders that face investors with confidence and say, sure, I'm meeting you, but I'm not ready to ask for your investment quite yet. We'll come back in 3 months once I've hit A, B, and C. But let me share with you my vision. And I've really seen investors respond to that in a positive way when they realize it's not a tactic. It's not, you're not gaming the investor. It's a genuine reflection, authentic reflection of who the founder is and what they know and what they don't know.
That makes sense. You mentioned our pivot quite a few times, and for us it was definitely a journey to get to where we are today. Since SkyDeck, we pivoted, we lost a co-founder. We ultimately had a very, very long way to get to the right product for the right market, and now it's just taking off, right? It's like you said, like that feeling of suddenly everything falls in place, and everything seems to make sense, and that the strategy kind of lays in front of you, and you just need to run and execute. That's a great feeling to have. You've probably seen a lot of other companies do such a pivot at this point, given that you invest in like 20 companies twice a year, and there must be a lot of folks that come to such a realization at these early stages. What are some of the signs you see when you actually advise founders to like, hey, maybe you want to consider pivoting, and is that something that you ever kind of prompt and towards them?
Absolutely. I think when I look at the most successful companies in our portfolio, and we do have 10 companies now that's in our portfolio. We have more than 20 that's worth more than 100 million. And in fact, one data point that we're really proud of is that nearly 20% of our companies in 2018, 2019, like those 2 years, are now worth more than 100 million. And I'm not gonna talk about your terms. I'm not sure it's public, but it's you obviously you're right around that there as well. And when I look at that portfolio, though, I would say probably roughly half have changed completely from what they thought they were doing at demo day. Half are still doing exactly what they thought they were doing at demo day. So I don't think founders should come into this with the perception that they have to pivot, nor should they come in with a perception that they're locked into what they're building now, right? Now the question is, what are the signals that maybe it's time to really think about doing a pivot? What I think the most important one is just, what are you hearing from the customers? As a founder, we're so earnest about like wanting this to work. When you sit down across from someone and you're sharing your passion with them and your vision with them, most people, unless they're just complete jerks, they respond to you in a mostly supportive way. They say things that they think you want to hear. No one goes around wanting to hurt earnest, smart people, especially if you're smart too. Like, a lot about the industry, you have a vision for why A is broken and why B is going to be better. And across the table from you is someone who's not as intellectually informed as you, who hasn't really thought about these issues, like where industry is going and all of those things. But they can feel your passion. So when you ask them the question like, hey, is this a pretty good thing that I'm building? You're going to get usually like supportive comments like, oh yeah, no, that's really compelling. That's really cool. And those things can be misleading. Okay. Because the founder hears that and it feeds into their vision. Like, oh my God, it's working. This is exciting. We're in discussion with big logo. Like, it's going to happen. But in reality, you didn't cross the bar for, is this a big enough pain point, right? Like, is this person going to change the way they do their jobs? Is this person looking to take on the additional burden of integrating your solution? Is this person like actually feeling enough pain that the problem that you want to solve for them is actually top 5? Or is he or she going to hang up the phone and go back and like be like, okay, now I can go back to that thing that's really bugging me, So really holding yourself back when you have these customer discovery calls, where it's not just you being the missionary, where you're trying to preach and you're trying to convert your potential customer, but really hearing from them and really measuring, like, how hot is this? Like, how in demand is this going to be? And if it's not there, right, you have the conversations with the right people. You're describing it the way you want to describe it. You've built a Figma to really convey the vision. You've shared what you thought would be compelling enough. And if it's not resonating, in my opinion, pushing harder is not always the right solution. Instead, looking for an alternative pain point, an alternative customer segment, some other go to market is very much in need.
That makes ton of sense. Yeah, I feel like those like direct interactions with the customer and getting as deep in the trenches as possible with them. Even I read the other day from a founder who was actually saying, hey, the way to become a PLG kind of type company for us was to be super handholdy and super kind of like, top down as we started, because that actually helped us understand the entire org and who signs off on the budget ultimately. And it helped us understand their concerns versus the end users' concerns. And there's a whole lot of dynamics, especially if you're in the kind of B2B world and not in a consumer-facing world. And I think for us, the most unlocking experience was actually connecting on Slack with all of these customers. Created that Slack channel, people joined, and we could DM them and we were just asking, how's it going, right? Because sometimes you kind of let them roll and you think that POC is going well and you check in and then you realize, oh, they haven't even started yet, right? And like 2 weeks have passed. And I think having that direct channel to be able to ask these questions, but also give them an easy way to just get a hold of you. Right? I remember in the early days, like I gave a lot of customers my phone number, right? And just like,
No,
here's my phone number, hit me up
yeah,
if anything comes
love
up.
it.
And I think that was helpful. There was even I think our very first paying customer, and that was even with the old product, right? When we were still trying to
Yeah,
make the pass work. I would drive to SF. They called me. They had a problem. I hopped into BART, and then I joined them in their San Francisco office to debug something right there because it was too hard to do that, remote. Obviously, times have a little bit changed since then. A lot more things are remote these days, but that was just super helpful for us to realize, hey, this is an uphill battle. This is difficult, right? People appreciate that we're so involved, but somehow it's just not as easy as it probably should be.
yeah. It's hard because I think founders, you're told no so much, and you're also taught, and I think naturally you want to convince people. That's why you're in this business, because you want to convince people. But I think it's one thing to convince an investor. I think it's one thing to convince a hire. It's one thing to convince a channel partner to work with you. But I actually think like the conversation you have with your customer has to be a little bit different, at least in the early days. Like if you're just very sales mode and you're just trying to convince them without hearing what they have to say, you're probably going to be led astray. But I love those stories of all the the extra mile, because even though that wasn't turned out that wasn't the right product, you could only figure that out because you did those things.
Yeah, definitely true. Ultimately, it worked out, pretty well for us. We're growing super fast right now. Some of the largest companies in the world are relying on our technology. It makes me all really, really proud to reflect on this. Now we closed our Series A. We're ready to scale the company and the product even further. And I think something that may be surprising for folks out there is in this A round, after quite some time has passed, and after this pivot, SkyDeck decided to double down on us again in this round, and I think that is super impressive. What keeps you excited about us? Why do you keep doubling down on us?
I think it's the same reason that we made that investment in the first place. I think your deep understanding of who your customers are. Every time that we have a conversation, the thing that comes through the screen loud and clear, or in person, of course, that comes through loud and clear is just how well you appreciate your customer's thought process, why they are, what exactly is driving their buying decision, good and bad, right? Because you're not going to win them at all. So how do you understand? Do you have a full grasp of what's happening there? And you clearly do. As a market direction in general, we certainly continue to believe in this continued transition to cloud and cloud native. We know that we're only in the early innings of that. No matter what happens with AI or enterprise in general, this is an enabling layer that someone's going to have to build, and I think that should be you. And then I have to say the choice of the lead also plays a big part into that as well. We're extremely impressed by not close at of course we're impressed by close at the brand as well, but much more importantly, I would say John as the partner who led this round. He knows this category extremely well. And when we think about who we would want on your board to kind of like drive this thing forward, like he is the guy. So I think just all of the stars aligned, and we're extremely grateful that we had a chance to invest in this round.
Awesome. I definitely got the same feeling when putting this one together. As you know, we're building a fully remote team here at Loft, and is that something of an outlier position these days? Are people going back to being fully in person when they start out? I know there's a lot of controversy whether remote teams, or whether like remote only companies, let's call it like that, right? Is the right model going forward, or there's a hub model, or people work in have a team in Europe or India, and then in the US, right? There's so many different approaches right now on how to set up a company once you scale beyond, the maybe 2 or 3 co-founders. What do you see as the most prominent model in your portfolio?
I think a lot of our Series B companies are also in Series A, Series B have also gone to a completely virtual model. Some are in person as well, but clearly it's working for them as well. So I think it's really viable. What I would say is that there are certain functions that should be in person, and there are some certain functions that are just fine virtual. I personally have no problems at all with engineering teams being mostly virtual, and engineering teams could be, individual functions, individual components of the engineering team can also be remote. Like the infra team can be in Germany, right? And like the UI team could be in Brazil, right? Like I think all of those things are completely viable. I do think that increasingly, but boy, I was really excited when COVID ended, because I'm so happy that SkyDeck has been in person again since, I don't remember when, end of 22, probably early 23. The batches that have been in person, the energy, the chemistry, the speed of growth has been an order of magnitude higher than it was when we were on Zoom only. So there's no doubt in my mind that when we're talking about the CEO function, the job of the CEO in terms of collaborating, brainstorming, meeting, new strategic partners, competitors, their investors, key customers, that continues to be in person first. And so that's why the fact that you're here is, I think, critical to your growth. I'll be honest with you, there are a few companies in the portfolio that I would say maybe two years ago were about the same level of potential and the growth as you, but the founders stayed in Europe. And I mean, they're trying very hard, don't get me wrong, and everybody has a very good reason for where they want to be. So I'm not really trying to sort of pass judgment on that, but just objectively, I think that if they were able, if the core CEO team and maybe the CTO, but certainly if the CEO could be in the Bay Area for 3/4 of the year, they don't have to be here every single day, but if they were here for 3/4 of the year, I think they would grow a lot faster.
Yeah, there's definitely some truth to building a network in the Bay Area and getting connected with everyone. I think for us, I know SkyDeck obviously provides the co-working space there as well, overlooking, Berkeley campus, as well as with the nice view on the, on the Golden Gate Bridge. It was very, very inspiring to obviously have that as our kind of landing pad, in the Bay Area. And it also helped us a lot to connect with other batchmates. Like I'm still in touch with a whole bunch of friends at this point from SkyDeck, and with all the ups and downs and all the questions and uncertainty you have, during the program as well as after the program, it's just so good to have all these folks that go through the same motions, and some may be ahead of you, some may be struggling at the same stage, right? But like building these deep friendships purely remote, I don't think would be possible. I think that was only possible because we were hanging out together a lot in this shared space. So I think it's a great model that obviously an accelerator, like you can kind of facilitate that and help folks build their network here and have that as a landing pad. Before we wrap up, is there anything new at SkyDeck? Anything exciting coming up? I know like Demo Day is twice a year. Isn't it about the time to have Demo Day? Was Demo Day already?
You just missed it. Well, our day was last Wednesday, and it was tremendous. Again, that's another event where doing it in person is 1,000 times. I mean, I hate to tell you, like I remember. I mean, you went through the in-person Demo Day, and you remember the tension, but also the energy, the vitality of having all these people coming up to you afterwards and just brainstorming and just realizing you end up walking with a stack of new business cards of people that want to learn more about your business. It's an amazing experience when we get 600 investors, in the room with you. And then with the COVID era, oh gosh, I mean, it was, we would have a Zoom, we have a YouTube broadcast, and at the end we have like a Zoom link for each of the companies, a breakout room, and you would go into Zoom link. I mean, like, such a horrific experience. And I really apologize deeply to all of our companies. A lot of them are going to do well, but I wish they could have experienced the full in-person demo day experience. What's great is that, sorry, just as a quick aside, we do offer our alumni companies a chance to come back and pitch for their next round. So we are seeing a lot of the virtual companies come back, and they have the same sentiments, like, oh my God, this is what I missed. So our next one is, and so it was a great event. 1,300 people RSVP to join. We packed the hall, so much energy. There wasn't room to walk from booth to booth to booth, and we always get feedback like, well, shouldn't you guys expand the room? We kind of want that compact feeling, that. The next event that I think would love to get you involved with as well, Lukas, is we're going to have a hackathon in June of this year.
Oh, nice.
This is we did this for the first time last year. It's for people who aren't aware, we don't work with the students on campus very often, except as a source of a pipeline of talent for our founders. Like, our focus is to service the world's, again, best engineers and technologists. That's what we want to do. The challenge is with student founders, we want to nurture them, we want to give them the support, but you have to be exceptional to really be part of the 1% that gets picked for the next cohort. But that said, with AI and LLMs being such a disruptive stack, we wanted to make it easier for that population to have access to these tools and see what could come of it. So last summer, we had a great event co-hosted with Sequoia, Lightspeed, M12, and Mayfield, might be missing someone, I can't remember who, as well as all of the big players. We co-hosted with OpenAI, LangChain, etc. We launched what's called the Quit Your Internship Grand Prize. The idea is that we have it at the beginning of the summer. So for all of the folks who are either graduating, whether in the current school, we say, hey, quit your internship, work on this thing. And the top 4 companies who actually invested in all of the top 4 teams. That was an experiment. I think we're going to do a version of that this year. We're not sure about the details here, but the hackathon is going to be tremendous. We're going to have, I'm sure, 1,500 more people on campus at Berkeley. It's gonna be a 36-hour event, so they're gonna eat there and sleep there and crash there and play games there and learn there and hack there. We're gonna have some amazing partners, and then, of course, for the final round, we'll definitely have those top VC firms as well on stage, being our judges, and and so that's exciting. Please follow us on Twitter, follow us on LinkedIn, and you'll get more details on that event. And then the next demo day will be in September. And also, Lukas, I should point out that we're going to have a alumni event at some point this fall, where we really want to bring back all of the alumni companies and put on some great content for all of you as well.
Sounds like a lot of stuff's going on at SkyDesk. Definitely looking out for that hackathon, but also for the alumni event. That sounds like a lot of fun. I know I've been trying to stay in touch as much as I can with the SkyDesk ecosystem, and you're doing a great job at like organizing the bowling nights and like those kind of events. And that's always fun to reconnect with, some old friends you just randomly see showing up there, and you're like, oh my gosh, we met at SkyDeck, or you wear like a badge after me, and we were part of your interview process in some way, right? Or even just meet the new cohort and kind of hear what they're up to. There's always some certain themes in each batch. I'm sure there's a lot more AI companies this time around than ever before, but yeah, sounds like a lot of good stuff is going on at SkyDeck. So definitely keep up the good work, and thank you so much for taking the time today, Chon. Really appreciate it. Very excited to stay involved with the SkyDeck community. I hope this session was helpful for anyone to get to know SkyDeck a bit better, get to understand, our first investor here in the Bay Area that actually helped get things started and enabled us to have this landing pad here in the Bay Area. If you're curious, about our funding round and what we're doing, head to our blog. There's a lot more information on there, and head to vcos.com to obviously check out the product. And if you want to get in touch with our community, the best way to do that is really join us on Slack. You can join us on slack.vcos.com, and I'm excited to see you in the community there.